Hello and welcome to this course of the science of happiness. As we saw in the previous module, we talked about the theory, and now this particular topic is about the ladder of happiness. And when we talk about the ladder of happiness, the if you notice here, it's a confluence of even if you look at Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you look at a Panchakosha, and we try and look at the combination of these two, we would understand that at the lowermost level, as per the Vedanta philosophy, we have what is called the sensory level of happiness. And we all understand this very well because every single part of our senses, our body, when we seek pleasure, everything that we desire, which is giving us pleasure, be it food, be it, and that's exactly what Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the physiological needs, the basic needs talks about. So that's the sensory level. The point here is, why is it called the lowest rung of the ladder? And why are we even grading something lower or higher? So there is a basic understanding, and this has come with certain research and experience, that at this level of happiness, there are certain characteristics of that it's a pleasure and not happiness, because the pleasure is momentary. It doesn't last for long. So that's the first characteristic. The second part is that when you get this kind of a happiness, it is said that if you overindulge in it, it leads to repulsion. And also that if you keep indulging in it for a long time, then there is a diminishing marginal return in that. What it means is that when you desire something for the first time and you get pleasure out of it, and you have the second experience, the return of happiness is not going to be as much as it was in the first time. So these are certain characteristics at the lowermost rung of the ladder. Now that means what it's trying to say is not saying that you should not go after it. Yes, it is required for basic comfort, but then we are not supposed to keep hankering on this ladder, on this level itself. We need to move to the next level. And what is the next level? The next level is called the mental level of happiness. So what is the mental level of happiness? In the mental level, we are using our minds. That means now we have moved from the body, which is the gross part, to the mind. So that means, there is a body which is our most gross part of ours, which has got these sensory organs. And now, where is the mind? Now, if you understand the Western psychology, they correlate mind to the brain. But according to the Vedanta, the mind is a software and the brain is a hardware. So what it says is that the mind is something there where there are two things. There is a pratyaya, which is a thought, and there is vrittis, which is the modification. So mind is nothing but a constant flow of thoughts. So when we start using our minds to do certain things, whatever in life, it could be, and the most important part of a mind is the emotions that we generate when we have connectivity with people around. So again, Abraham Maslow's theory talks about the safety and the love and belonging, the layer there, which is connected to this particular layer of ladder. If you look at it, and it comes to the Manomaya Kosha when it comes to the Pancha Kosha. So we have moved from the Annamaya Kosha and the Pranamaya Kosha to the Manomaya Kosha. So when we look at the mind, and in this mind we look at the emotions that are getting generated. So what happens is this kindness, compassion. In Sanskrit we call it Maitri, Karuna, Mudita. All these are emotions get generated, and these when these emotions, positive emotions, are generated, it gives a much higher level of happiness. When I say higher, it says it stays for a longer period of time than what was pleasure. So that's how we are defining it, as a higher rung of a ladder. And also it makes you feel the happiness stays for much more. You remember it for much more amount of time. So it remains with you. And also there is no diminishing returns out here. The more you show kindness, it actually increases more. The happiness only increases. However, there is a disclaimer here. You have to be very careful because this mind is very powerful. If this gets converted into attachment, it leads to a feeling of possessiveness. In Sanskrit it is called mamatva. So if there is mamatva, it's going to cause problems of you're possessive about something, and it leads to either anger or jealousy. So all the negative emotions also get generated. So there are these, like, you have to be very careful and watchful of how our mind is working, and which is where yoga is a way by which we can actually start becoming observers to what we are doing and a bit mindful about our actions. But then even this layer is has a something you can go better than this, and the next rung is called the intellectual layer. Now, what do you mean by the intellectual layer? What the Vedanta philosophy is talking about is, and it is again connected to the Maslow's hierarchy where we talk about the esteem part of it. So where we are connected to something that we do very passionately. In Western psychology, there's a concept of flow, which says that if you are take up a skill and you are challenged in that skill, so you reach into a state of flow. We are completely absorbed by that activity. So are we looking at things in our life when we are doing work, certain activities which completely absorb us, we are completely into it, we just are just absorbed into that activity. What is generally told is that we should find certain activities in our daily life which just lets us get absorbed into it. Somebody could be a good dancer. So when you observe a dancer dancing on stage, they're completely absorbed. Or an artist who is just engrossed in their painting. Or maybe somebody is engrossed in their writing. It could be anything. But there is this activity that we could just get involved in, and that's where the higher intelligence gets completely, involved, and the sense of happiness at that point in time is said to be very, very beautiful. So that's a higher level. At the next level, even higher than the intelligence, is said to be service. Again, if you observe people who are into service, you go to a gurudwara, you see people, rich businessmen going there and spending the whole day there, cleaning plates, washing plates and cutting vegetables and cleaning shoes. And you ask them, why do you do it? Or you go to an orphanage or you go to an old age home and just spend time there. You realize that there is some sense of peacefulness, happiness that comes in, which is very, very of very high order. Also, when you help somebody who is needy, and then and that person thanks you, and you feel there's a different kind of a feeling. And of course, service doesn't mean that you come from a position of that I have more than somebody who has less. No, it's not that. Service comes from a feeling of humility, where you actually get down to that level of the person, connect with that person as one, and help them as a friend. So again, the concept of Maitri, Karuna, Mudita. So you try to see joy in that person, and when you see joy in that person, you feel joyful. That's the concept of service. This is something that the Vedanta talks about a lot. In fact, most of the religion religious books will talk about this, whether it is Christianity, Islam, Hindu. Every single religion talks about service to humanity, and there's a reason for it that anybody doing service would find that they become more peaceful and they become more happier. Even higher than this, the highest level of happiness is said to be the state of meditation. But yes, getting into a state of meditation is not easy, especially when we are people who are engrossed in the daily world. Because when the mind is constantly flowing with thoughts, sitting down and closing your eyes is not the solution. You're not going to get into meditation so easily. But yes, if you practice it and if you're able to reduce your thoughts, if you're able to calm down your mind, you become an observer and the thoughts come down to a standstill, and you are able to awaken that awareness that is there within us. That state of meditation is said to be the highest state of happiness, where happiness is just, as we saw in the previous slide, that consciousness and infinite happiness is right within us, shining like a sun through the mirror, which is a reflection source of that happiness. So, if we are able to clean up our mirror of our mind with no thoughts, the shining of the entire sun of happiness inside us is going to be extremely high, and that's what the meditation state is supposed to be. And this is much higher than the self-actualization, which is talked about in the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in the Panchakosha, it is talking about the Anandamaya Kosha. So we are looking at going beyond the Anandamaya Kosha to a state where we are actually connected with the Atman or the Brahman, which is the infinite consciousness right within us, and which makes us realize that we are one with the universe. And there's absolutely complete bliss and happiness in that state, is what is being spoken about. So this was a topic of the ladder of happiness. And so see you soon in the next session of ours, which will delve upon each of these layers one by one. Thank you so much.